Hi folks, I'm Dr. Joseph Reed, and in this video I want to talk with you about an essential part of the positive management process, performance planning. Now when I say performance planning, I'm really talking about that process that you engage in with your employee to get, number one, alignment about what they're going to do, and number two, get agreement about how the two of you are going to work together to ensure that they're successful. When performance planning's done well, great. You've set the employee up for success. When performance planning's not done well, ouch, bad things are probably going to happen. If performance planning is done poorly, there's probably going to be missed opportunities, missed deadlines. There's probably going to be goals that are accomplished in ways that you don't want them to be accomplished. And all of those things are probably going to lead to recrimination and frustration and maybe damage to relationships. So this idea of performance planning is really important in order to help the employee to succeed, and in order for you as the manager to be successful as well. Now, I'm framing this as a tool for management, but if you're an individual contributor, there's a value in you understanding this process as well. If your manager's not using the steps that I'm going to be talking about, and you know them, you're going to be able to influence your manager, possibly, to make sure that you get what you need to be successful. So tune in, this is going to be pretty brief. I want to focus primarily on what happens in the conversation that you engage in with the employee to come to agreement about their performance plan. But before you sit down for that conversation, you as a manager have a lot of due diligence. You need to take a look at the organization's performance plan. You need to understand the strategic vision of the organization. What are they trying to accomplish? What are they aspiring to in the organization? You need to have a sense of the long-term goals of the organization. Where is it trying to go? And you need to understand the strategies that the organization's embracing to actually accomplish those long-term goals. If you know that, then you can start thinking about how your team, your organization, your unit fits in to the bigger organization. And that's going to set you up when you engage in the performance planning conversation to help make it more relevant for the employee. So let's assume you know those things. You've got a clear sense of the strategic vision of the organization. So let's talk about the specific conversation that you have with the employee to reach agreements. It starts off with a conversation about responsibilities. And when I say responsibilities, I'm talking pretty broad brush. Think job description type of responsibilities. What is the employee in general going to be responsible for? So if we're talking about an exercise physiologist, somebody who's working in a corporate health center, let's say, maybe we agree that they're going to be responsible for fitness assessment. Maybe we agree that they're going to be responsible for exercise design and development. And maybe we agree that they're going to be responsible for health education. Pretty broad, right? Now, managers typically do a pretty good job of reaching agreement about responsibilities when they're working with new employees. But my experience has been the longer the employee's done the job, the more and more scope creep comes into the job, and managers don't always do a wonderful job of addressing that. So I'm going to suggest that you engage in this conversation and talk about responsibilities, not only with somebody who's a rookie in the position, but also with somebody who's been doing it for years. revisit these basic responsibilities. Try to reduce the potential misalignment between what you think they're responsible for and what they think they're responsible for. Because one of the main reasons that employees do the wrong thing is they think they're doing the right thing. So step number 1, discuss responsibilities. Step number 2, start to set some priorities. We're going to recommend that you get agreement on what I'm going to call key result areas, KRAs. Now, KRA is simply something that you absolutely positively have to work on during whatever the performance period is that you're reaching an agreement about. So I'm suggesting that you have these conversations every 3 months or so. So let's think about a performance period that's 3 months long. What are the key elements, the key aspects of the job that you really, positively, absolutely need to focus on during the next 3 months? Those are going to be the key result areas. And the intent behind the key result area is to help focus and set priorities for the employee. It's really based on the Pareto Principle. I don't know if you've heard of that before. Alfredo Pareto was an Italian economist who postulated that 80% of the wealth at the time was held by 20% of the families. That Pareto Principle has become, I think, a little more well known as the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is, in a set of items, a precious few, let's say 20%, are going to provide the majority of the benefit of those items. So let's bring it back to KRAs. When we're thinking about the employee's job, what are the 5 to 7 key areas that they need to focus on in order to really add value during this performance period? Those are the KRAs. And generally, KRAs are expressed pretty broadly. So, improve customer service could be a KRA, or reduce defects could be a KRA. So step 2, identify key result areas. Step 3, get agreement on the SMART goals that the employee is going to be held accountable for. Now think about the purpose of a goal. It's supposed to provide direction. It's supposed to really focus your attention and your energy. It's supposed to really help the employee to narrow their attention, and it tells them what's important. Goals don't automatically have those qualities. So we're recommending that you use an acronym like SMART to help aspire to those qualities. You're probably familiar with it. If you're not, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound are the 5 letters behind SMART. And as you're working with an employee, you want to help them develop a written goal statement for each key result area. Let me amend that. At least one written goal statement. You might have multiple written goal statements for each KRA. But the written goal statements for each KRA should be specific and should be measurable and should be time-bound. Now those 3 elements of SMART, specific, measurable, time-bound, they actually show up in the written goal statement. The other 2 aspects, the achievability, the relevancy, they're not actually going to be written out. They're going to be more a set of lenses through which you test that SMART goal once it's been developed. So make the goal specific, make it measurable, make it achievable. You know, it drives me crazy when managers set goals that are so high the employee knows right out of the starting blocks that they have absolutely no chance of achieving those goals. I was working with a group of people back in January, and the whole idea of goals came up, and they brought up the issue of a goal in their organization, which was to achieve 0 defects in their manufacturing process. Now, that's admirable. But as we were talking about it, it really became apparent that there was no way possible, given their current process, given their current operation, that they were going to get to 0 defects. They could get close, but they couldn't eliminate all of the variants. And what I saw in that group was a lot of people who just weren't engaged in that goal anymore. And that's what happens when you stretch a goal too far. People lose the motivation, people lose the commitment to achieve the goal. So think of it sort of, from a Goldilocks perspective. You don't want it to be too easy, you don't want it to be too hard, you want it to be just right. Achievable means achievable with effort. So step 3, develop SMART goals. Step 4, get agreement about how the two of you, the manager, and the employee, are going to work together to ensure that the employee is successful in accomplishing the goals. When you work with an employee, a team member, a direct report to develop the goal, you're not done once the goal's developed. You still have a stake in their ultimate, hopefully successful completion of the goal. And if they don't get what they need from you to accomplish that goal successfully, it's not only the employee who's failed, it's also you as the manager who have failed. So, step 4 is reach agreement with the employee about what they need from you in order to be successful. So if I'm working with an employee and we've just developed a goal, let's say the goal is for this employee to take over the development and the management of a multi-rater assessment process, a 360 assessment process. I might say something to them like, Jason, since you haven't ever worked on a 360 assessment process before, would it make sense for us to work together pretty closely on this one? And for me to give you some direction about the best way to go about bringing this online by the deadline? I mean, it could be as simple as that. If on the other side of the coin, I'm working with somebody who's got a lot of experience on the goal that we're looking at, then it might be a matter of me simply asking, what do you need from me in order to make this work? That last step, agree on how you're going to work together, is going to set the employee up to tell you what they need from you in order to be successful accomplishing the goal. It's a critical part of the performance planning process. So let me review very quickly. Number 1, do your due diligence before you start. Know where the organization's going. Step 1 of performance planning, agree on responsibilities. Step 2 of performance planning, agree on key result areas. Step 3 of performance planning, agree on SMART goals. Remember, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And step 4 of performance planning, agree on how the two of you are going to work together to ensure that the employee is successful. When you think about it, it's pretty simple. 4 agreements, and if you go through those 4 agreements, you're going to set that person up for success. If you'd like more information about management, if you'd like more information about performance planning, take a look at my website. It's drjosephreed.com. Thank you for watching this video.